If you've been shopping for a TV lately, you've probably run into this debate: OLED versus LED. It's one of those topics where the internet makes it sound like there's a single right answer, when in reality, it depends on your room, your habits, and what kind of flaws bother you the most. I'm Marco from RTINGS.com, and in this video, we're gonna break it down the same way we test TVs. We'll look at contrast and black levels, brightness and reflections, color, motion, gaming feel, and long-term concerns like burn-in. We'll also talk about what you get for your money, especially once you start shopping at 75 inches and above. And a quick reminder, if guides like this help you shop smarter, you know what to do. So what's OLED and LED anyway? An OLED TV is self-lit, which means that each pixel is its own tiny light that can dim independently, and it can also turn itself completely off. That is the core reason OLED looks the way it does, as it's capable of displaying perfect blacks. An LED TV is really an LCD TV with a backlight. An LCD panel doesn't create light on its own. It's basically a grid of pixels that works like tiny shutters, letting light pass through to form the image. The LED part is simply the backlight between that LCD layer. So an LED TV is an LCD TV where the light source behind the panel is made of LEDs. The backlight can be basic, like edge lit, or it can be more advanced, like full array local dimming, where different zones of the backlight can brighten or dim independently. So the real comparison is this: OLED is per pixel light control, and LED is a backlight system trying to approximate that control with zones. These two differences impact contrast. If you watch movies at night, this is usually the deal breaker. Contrast is the difference between the darkest black and the brightest white that a display can show. OLED has a built-in advantage here because it can produce true black. If part of the image is supposed to be black, those pixels can literally turn off so dark scenes don't glow. Black bars in letterboxed movies stay dark, and bright objects in dark scenes don't have that cloudy halo around them because there's no backlight lighting up surrounding pixels. On an LED TV, black levels depend on the backlight. If it's a basic model without effective local dimming, blacks look more like dark gray, especially in a dim room where deep blacks are most impactful. Higher-end LED TVs use good local dimming to improve this by dimming parts of the backlight in darker areas. That can look very good, but it still has limitations because the backlight works in zones, not pixels. That's where you can get haloing, that glow you sometimes see around bright objects on dark backgrounds. Subtitles are the classic example here. The TV brightens the zone behind the subtitle, but that zone is larger than the subtitle itself, so it lights up nearby dark pixels too. Better LED TVs reduce this effect, but they can't eliminate it in the way that OLED can. So, if your main goal is to make dark movies look amazing, OLED still tends to be the easiest to win. A great mini LED TV can look fantastic, but it's still trying to recreate something that OLED just does naturally. Now, let's flip the situation around. What if your room is bright? This is where LED TVs often pull ahead, especially if you watch a lot during the day or your TV is in a living room with a lot of windows. Brightness matters for two reasons. First, it helps the image stay punchy and clear when there's ambient light, and second, it helps overcome reflections. Even a TV with decent reflection handling can look washed out if it's not bright enough to compete with the light in the room. Most LED TVs, especially mid-range to high-end models, can get very bright in SDR. That's the content you watch most of the time: cable, sports, YouTube, and a lot of TV shows. High SDR brightness is what makes a TV look strong at noon in a sunny room. As for OLED TVs, modern OLEDs are much brighter than older models, but they're still more limited in sustained full-screen brightness. Now, that doesn't mean OLEDs can't look great in a normal living room. It just means that if you have an extremely bright room and you want the picture to stay bright and clear all day without really thinking about it, LED tends to be the safer bet here. Also, in a bright room, your black level perception changes. Ambient light raises the adaptation point of your eyes, so you can't see as many details in the dark on the screen while the room is bright. That means OLED's advantage in perfect blacks becomes less obvious, while the LED advantage in brightness becomes more obvious. So far, we've mostly been talking about SDR brightness, since that's what you're watching for a lot of daytime content. HDR is a little different. It's less about making the whole screen bright all the time, and more about having a wider range between the darkest and brightest parts of the image, and hopefully, having bright highlights and deep blacks on screen at the same time. OLED can look extremely punchy in HDR because bright highlights sits right next to true blacks, especially in dark rooms. Where LED often pulls ahead is when you're watching HDR in a brighter room. A lot of HDR content isn't meant to be overall bright, so it can look darker than you expect with bright lights on. A bright LED TV can keep the whole image more visible while still delivering strong highlights, which usually makes it the perfect fit for daytime HDR viewing. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what about color? Well, color is where people expect a simple answer, but it depends on what you mean by better color. First, there's color gamut, which is usually the range of colors a TV can reproduce. Both OLED and LED TVs can have a wide color gamut depending on the model. Then there's color volume, which is how well the TV can keep colors looking saturated as parts of the image get brighter or dimmer. This matters because HDR often asks for bright and saturated colors at the same time. OLEDs often look especially rich in darker content because of their black levels. When blacks stay truly dark, dark colors don't look washed out. You get deeper looking colors at low luminance, which makes movies look denser and more cinematic. LEDs can look extremely vibrant, especially in bright content, because it can drive a lot of light. Some LED TVs can deliver very bright, colorful highlights that look intense and punchy, especially in HDR. The trade-off is that if an LED TV's blacks get lifted, or local dimming isn't handling a scene cleanly, some darker colors can lose depth. And on the OLED side, if the TV can't sustain brightness as well in very bright scenes, you might not get the same high brightness color impact as the brightest mini LED models. Now, if you're worried about viewing angle, then it's an easy choice. OLED. Thanks for watching. Okay, let's get deeper into this, shall we? Viewing angle is how well a TV maintains color and contrast when you sit off to the side. OLED generally holds up better off angle. Colors and contrast stay more consistent across different seating positions. LED usually gives you better contrast and deeper blacks from straight on, but the trade-off is that the picture washes out faster when you sit off to the side. Some LED TVs use viewing angle layers or different panel tech to improve this, but it's still a common LED weakness. So if you regularly watch with a wide seating arrangement, OLED tends to be the far superior tech, especially on QD-OLED TVs. Now, uniformity is basically how evenly the screen is lit. The reason this matters is that certain content makes uniformity issues obvious. Sports is a classic example of this because you're looking at big areas of solid color, like ice in hockey or a green field in soccer. If the TV has issues, you'll see faint blotches or streaks as the camera pans. In movies, you might notice uniformity issues in dark gray scenes or slow panning shots across skies or walls. LED TVs can have uniformity problems like dirty screen effect, patchy brightness, or corner shading. Local dimming can help in some scenes, but it can introduce its own inconsistency depending on the content. OLED tends to look cleaner in many types of content, but it's not perfect. Some OLED panels can show vertical banding in near black content. Most people never notice it, but if you're sensitive to dark scene uniformity, it's a real thing. That said, OLED generally have cleaner gray and black uniformity than LED TVs, while LEDs can still vary a lot depending on panel and local dimming behavior. If you're a gamer like me, OLED's response time is a big deal. Response time is how fast pixels change from one shade to another. Faster response times usually means less motion blur. OLED pixels transition extremely fast, which makes motion looks crisp and gives games a snappy feel. It's especially noticeable in fast camera pans or quick character movement. Now, that doesn't mean LED TVs can't be great for gaming. Many have low input lag and excellent HDMI 2.1 support, but pixel response is always slower than on OLEDs, so motion blur is more noticeable. Some LED panels can also show dark smearing in certain transitions, where dark objects leave a trailing smear as they move. So if your priority is motion clarity, OLED is the winner here. If your priority is high brightness and gaming in a bright room, a bright LED can still be a great match, but it won't be as good as a solid OLED set. Now, come closer. This is the topic everyone is nervous about: burn-in and other longevity issues. OLED burn-in is uneven wear of the subpixels. If certain pixels show the same bright static elements for a very long time, they can age differently than the rest of the screen. Over time, that can leave a faint permanent imprint. The classic risk cases are news channels with static tickers, sports channels with constant scoreboards, or playing one HUD-heavy game for thousands of hours without much variety. Now, most people don't watch like that. If you watch a mix of content, vary what's on screen, and if you're not running the TV at max brightness with static elements all day, burn-in risk is much lower. OLED TVs also include mitigation features like pixel refresh routines and logo dimming. LED doesn't get burn-in in the same way, but it has its own long-term issues. Backlights age, and some LEDs can develop uniformity changes over time. The difference is that LED's long-term downsides usually don't depend on your viewing habits in the same direct way. But if we're being honest here, burn-in won't be an issue for most people, and neither will be LED failures. Except perhaps if you're shopping for an edge-lit TV. We've shown in the past that these models are designed in a way that makes them more prone to fail. But aside from that, don't worry too much about longevity and enjoy your TV. When it comes to value, LED has the biggest practical advantage. If you want a very large TV, LED gives you more options and better value. 75 and 85-inch LED TVs are common and can be affordable, and you can go even larger without jumping into ultra-premium pricing. OLED has actually come down in price in the last couple of years, but large OLEDs are still very expensive compared to LEDs at the same size. You're paying for that contrast and premium look. So if your budget is fixed and your dream is to go as big as possible, LED often wins here. Hope this helps. Would you like to see more in-depth videos on other TV technologies? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you have any other questions, our staff and community are on Discord too. Come check us out.